childhood memories, an empathy towards animals, and an interest in early Greek art are the key ingredients to understanding what my current art is about. Looking back to my childhood and growing up on my grandparents' ranch, I can see how my ideas about nature and animals originated. I remember very clearly a cow being slaughtered and being told to carry the entrails in buckets back to the ranch house. My cousin and I had lots of feelings of disgust and revulsion doing this, but at the same time, we had a curiosity about the meaning of life. What makes something breathe and be alive? And as an adult, I've tried to hold on to these childhood memories, these feelings about animals, and about the meaning of life. While I was an undergraduate at Newcomb, I went to the zoo and drew animals. And I tried to understand each animal characteristic. I was particularly fascinated with the baboon because they're so colorful and aggressive and unpredictable. And I started making animals in clay about this time. And I wanted to do them very realistically. And I continued to do this for a while, and then I became interested in doing insects. And I think I selected the cockroach to do because it was aggressive and revolting, just like the baboon. And I did them very realistically with all the hairs on the legs and the wings and everything. And I became more interested in fantasy and humor in my art. And I continued to do things like that for a while. And then I wanted to do something else. I wanted to evoke deeper feelings. So I started going to the library and studying about other artists in the past and how they viewed life and death through their art. And then I discovered the Minoans. And I was fascinated with the Minoans because they're really, the civilization is shrouded in mystery. There's not that much known. The language is hard to decipher, and because of natural disasters like earthquakes and battles and so forth, little remains except fragments. And these fragments are in the form of wall paintings of bull jumpers, and cult objects such as double axes and libation tables, and implements used in the sacrifice of the bull. Well, this seemed very interesting to do, and so I started doing cult houses and shrines based on this idea. And I studied the architecture and decided to try and do my own version of what an early Greek temple would look like. I titled this the Stag of Pylos, named after a site in mainland Greece. This is a deer head on the top, and I got the idea from a wall fragment of a Mycenaean warrior stalking a deer. The axe on the side is a double axe, symbol of the sacrifice, and it is stuck into a figure-8 shield, which is covered by an ox hide. But they used these body shields during battle, and they actually covered it with the real hide. That's a Minoan column. You see it's thick, it's round, thick at the top, narrowed at the bottom. And these were very familiar at Knossos. This is a shrine. It's my idea of what an outdoor shrine might have been. Stripes on the top represent the stripes that were used on some of the early Greek temples. And the skull is sitting on an ox hide. This is supposed to represent a human burial, and I call it the Shrine of the Silent Ones. I call this the House of the Sacral Bird. On top you'll see a bird skull with a double axe This is a sacrificed bird, and it has actual bird feathers stuck coming out of the skull. I've worked in raku for years, and I decided that that would be the perfect medium to fire these shrines and cult houses in, because you take the pieces out red hot and you put it in a trash can with combustibles and you let it smoke for a while, and then you get a crackled, smoky appearance. In this way, I wanted to achieve an effect that these were dug up from the ground and were ancient. After the pieces are glazed and fired, they're assembled, and I selected to put skulls and bulls' heads with axes on the top of the cult house to symbolize what was happening inside. Now, this is my own fantasy of what I thought the Minoans did. This is the house of the dead with a human skull perched on the roof. It represents death. Perhaps he was killed in war. The shield on the side is based on a Minoan shield. Again, the oxhide pattern. I call this the Shrine of the Noble Warrior. The human skull is set in a Minoan helmet in front of Minoan armor with red feathers for the plume. Again, it's set on a painted oxhide. It's the very fact that we don't know really what was going on that intrigues me the most. This is the mystery, which led me to be able to do these things and put my own imagination in it. In constructing these cult houses and shrines, I had the feeling that I was reconstructing history in a way that I felt that perhaps the Minoans felt at the time about life and death. And I'm wondering, do we feel so differently now than they felt then? I call this the Tomb of the Royal Dead, and it's named after a burial site at Knossos in Crete. Again, a Minoan helmet with a plume. And the flattened columns, I call this a temple style tomb. This is the shrine of the priest king. On the top of the skull is a diadem, and each one represents, of the points represents a curl. There is some controversy as to whether the kings were really sacred. I tend to go with the sacred theory. I call this the Shrine of the White-tailed Deer, sitting on an ox hide. They had large copper ingots shaped like that, and that was so that they could carry them on their shoulders. It seems that only recently that I have been able to achieve a way of expressing my feelings about life and my past, about family, about friends, art history, animals. I've seemed to be able to put everything together and tell people, show people, perhaps how I truly feel. I feel that perhaps all of that I've read and researched on Minoan art came together in this piece.